Welcome to the Real Estate Women's Podcast. Thanks for pulling up a chair to our roundtable discussion. Here, we'll teach you how you can create a stream of passive income through multifamily investing, and we'll help you to shift your mindset so you can start living the life you really want to be living by design today. Hi guys, we are the Real Estate Women, and I'm Crystal. However, we are the Real Estate Women -1 today because Colleen has a very important thing. She has to take care of her little baby on the way. So we are going to be missing her dearly in this episode, but you still have the three of us plus our awesome guests. So again, I'm Crystal.
I'm Candy.
And I'm Tamara. Welcome to the Passive Investing Podcast. In today's episode, we would want to talk about how important things like financial education are for your kids, because it's the cornerstone to helping them understand what isn't necessarily taught in the classroom, and how them becoming involved in the process ultimately creates generational wealth. And that's why we brought Camilla on this episode.
Hi, Camilla.
Camilla is a mom of 5, serial entrepreneur, and investment enthusiast who is dedicated to helping women make their first million. She is a general partner in $200 million real estate portfolio and an investment coach for women who are looking to change their family's financial trajectory and help educate women and families on the strategies and tools they need to build generational wealth. So welcome, Camilla. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, ladies. I'm super excited to be here. I love talking real estate and investing with other women. So this is so fun for me.
So the magic question, like real estate, why? How'd you get started?
Okay, how did I get started? So my husband and I got married very young, and we were very poor. We were both struggling college students, working part-time jobs, going to school full-time, and doing it without student loans because we were determined not to do that. So at the time, we were living in a garage, like a converted garage apartment, because that's all we could afford. And one day the landlady came around to collect rent, because back then she wanted us to like put it in an envelope and stick it on the door. That's how rent was collected, right? She came around to collect rent, and I just started chatting with her, and I said, I know you have several rentals in the city. How do you do that? And she said, well, you know what you should do is you should buy a house. And I was like, what, lady? I live in your garage apartment. I can't afford a house. She said, no, this is what you do. You buy a house that has a basement apartment in it, and then you rent out the basement. And that way you can live cheaper. And I was like, that's interesting. And that's exactly what we did. We went from living in somebody's nasty garage apartment to a 6-bedroom home with a basement unit in it that had a kitchen and stuff. And it even had a pool in the backyard. I mean, how cool is that? And we paid less living there than we did in the garage apartment. And that's when I got fired up about real estate. And I was like, this is pretty cool.
Wow. And how long from the time that you asked that question were you able to be in that 6-bedroom home?
Within a couple of months. We just took action. We said, okay, we'll do it. Let's see what we can find.
Wow. Do you mind if I ask like what year it was? Like to think about the in your age or anything like that?
It was like 2002. Around 2002 is when that happened. 2001. Let's see. Yeah, 2002. Yeah, that's when my daughter was born. Okay, 2002. Got it.
Yeah. And one thing I want to say about that is that I was just curious as to like the time frame that we're going to be talking about today. But the other reason is that there's never a wrong time to invest in real estate. And people often think, wow, that was in 2002. I can't do that now. And that's not true. It might be a little bit trickier if you don't have money and you need to have somebody else help you with a down payment somehow, whether it be the seller is doing seller financing, but it still can be done. And I want to just continue to give that hope to people out there that are still wanting to live that dream. This is so cool. Such a wonderful story.
Yeah. That was, so was that your first, like, oh my gosh, like, okay, that's a whole nother way to look at things like your finances. And did it kind of help you realize, well, I don't have to be the one to always pay the bill? Like, utilizing things like loans, leveraging income. And when was it exactly that the financial education bug hit you? Because was it maybe for your kids, or was it before, when you started realizing the important things you may not have learned in school? That's what happened for me, at least.
Yeah. So after I graduated college, so I had a baby during college, and then got pregnant with twins right before I graduated. So I graduated with twin babies. So I had, and then, fast forward a couple of more years, I had two more kids. So I had 5 kids in 8 years. Now, you can imagine that daycare expenses for 5 little kids is enormous. It was more than, my degree in English education could afford. So I became the at-home parent. But there was part of me that absolutely loved it. I loved being with my children, but there was a part of me that was super frustrated that I felt like I wasn't contributing to the family finances. And so I started just doing a deep dive into, well, how can I contribute? And I was playing with I launched little businesses here and there to bring in some income. But then I had an aha moment when I was reading a book that said, why don't you become the CFO of your family? And I was like, that's really interesting concept, to treat your family as its whole financial organization, as a business, basically. And I'm going to be the CFO. I'm not going to be the one that generates the revenue, but that's only one piece of a whole business operation, right? There's managing the expenses. There's, figuring out how to invest the money and all of that. And so I'm like, okay, yep, sign me up. I will do that part. Now I started diving deep into investing, trying to figure it out. And this is while we're, living in this home. And I was reading books on the stock market, and it was not clicking. I tried so hard. I tried really hard to really understand stocks, but it's such a, concept it's not a tangible concept, right? It's not something I could touch or see or feel or, do anything like that. And I was like, I think real estate is where I got to go. And so I started reading a ton of real estate books. And then we just started acquiring properties. And so we did the live-in flip method, where you move into a house that's a junker, because you can get the best financing, the lowest down payment. So it's very cost friendly. And then you live in a construction mess, not the most comfortable way to invest, but it works. And fix it up. And you use a tax strategy where you live there for 2 years, then you rent it for 3 years, and then you sell it at year 5 and you pay no taxes at all, right? And so that's the strategy that we utilize. And we just basically did that like clockwork. Every 2 years, we get a new one, and we go and we live in, construction. And after a while, it got annoying, because I was like, man, we fix it so nice for someone else to live in it, and then I gotta go live in a dump again. So that strategy is only sustainable for so long, but it's actually a really great way to get started. And so as I was diving into this, I was all self-taught. I mean, back to the original question, right? How did I get going? It was all self-taught, and I got frustrated. And as my kids started getting older, I was like, I need to take their financial education more seriously, because I don't want them flailing around like I did when I was in my 20s, just trying to figure things out and not understanding, and you're just having to read a book and then just DIYing myself through life. Yeah, I think there's a better way here. And now that I have learned all of these skills, who better to teach it to first than my children? And so that's what really got me going on financial education path.
Were your kids open to that, or was it something that you had to sneak in and reward? Various, do this, then you'll get
broccoli.
buy this. How did that work for you?
So kids are, of course, excited about getting money in their hands, right? And having control. All kids want control of whatever they can control, and they feel like they don't get to control a lot. So when we started doing our financial training with them, we did it in a way where what we did is we launched a family bank. And so it's this family bank system that I developed. at age 5 is when kids start entering into the financial education training. And what we did is like at each age, I just kind of broke it out. And of course, as the kids were growing, I was learning as I go with them about what they could learn, handle learning, and what they needed to be a little bit older to understand.
Sure.
So at age 5, I just wanted to start developing habits of giving, of saving, and investing, right? So those are the 3 habits that we focused on. And the way we did this with our family bank is we would pay the kids an allowance. And I know that's kind of like a arm wrestling term, like, oh, I hate it, I love it, or whatever, right?
Mm.
For us, it was just part of their financial education. Like, you cannot teach kids about money if they don't have money in their hands. Now, you can tie stuff to chores, but what if the kid chooses not to do the chore? Now they
Right.
don't learn how money works, right? So for us, we did a combination. We did a very small allowance, which was $1 per age per month, right? So when they're 5 years old, well, let's just use 10-year-old because that's easier math. 10 years old, they get $10 a month, right? Very small, but enough for them to buy a little piece of candy or something here and there. Now, if they wanted more money than that, we gave them plentiful opportunities to do that. We had like job charts that we had assigned dollar figures to. So things like weeding the garden were extra jobs. Now, everybody had to do their regular chores, like clean their room. They had a zone of the house that they had to keep, and then they had a dishes job, right? But there was extra jobs that they could do to earn money. So then what we did, just to keep things simple and easy on me, was we had payday once a month. And another reason to do it just once a month was to teach kids how to make their money last longer as well, right? So that's another skill that they have to learn. So once a month we would have payday, and the kids, so we'd sit down and, for our 10-year-old, we'd be like, give them $10. Then we went through a series of, okay, 10% you give, right? So that's $1. So $1 you're giving. Now, what does the giving look like? Well, for us, it was tithed to a church, but for others, it's you can talk to your kid about finding a charity that they want to donate to, and then they donate their money to that charity. The second 10% was long-term savings. Now, long-term savings is money meant to be used once after they graduate high school, whether that be for college or for launching a business or for going to trade school, whatever they need as an adult to go on. That's long-term savings. So they would save 10%, so another $1, which mom and dad matched. So we would match that. So it would be $2 that they would get in there. The next 30% was investing into the family bank. Now, we did a family bank because for kids, investing in like a mutual fund is not very exciting. Again, they can't understand. I couldn't understand it when I was in my 20s. Like, how can I expect a 5-year-old or 10-year-old to understand it? So we created a family bank where if they kept the money in there, they got paid 10% interest per month. Yes, that is very inflated. Like, I would love an investment like that, right? But it's inflated for a reason because they're so little that they don't really, it's not very exciting, right? So my 10-year-old puts in $3, right? Then he gets 30 cents per month for each of those $3 that he leaves in there. And so that's how we worked on investing. And this system worked really well for kids ages 5 to 11. So I'll pause there and see if you have any questions about like the younger kids before we go into the older teenagers, what to do with them.
Well, I just have to say that was fantastic. And I want to grow up in your house.
Right? I literally have a 4-year-old and I'm like on the verge of like, how am I going to figure out the best way? Because I think financial education is so important. Like, I think it's probably one of the most important things that people never really learn in school. So I'm totally on the same page. And I'm like absorbing this, like, this is genius. This just saved me so many hours of Googling, book reading, which I'll probably still end up doing, but to already get started and have that's so huge. And I love all the key points because some other strategies that I've heard, you kind of hit the nail on the head when you said it's difficult for them to wait. It's difficult to, once they have that money in their hand, like you go on vacation, you have $10 or $20 to spend. Well, the first store they walk into, there's instantly that tool they must have. And then 2 hours later, they walk into the second store and they're out of money. So that's been something we've tried to teach our 4-year-old slowly every time we go away. And it's just, I love the way you're doing it. So I'm super interested to hear more on how you do it as they get older.
Yeah, and think about it as like a financial planning month too. So we sit down all together with all the kids and we look at the calendar. We're like, okay, you've got this coming up. You need extra money for that. We do allow them to pull money out of their investment account, right, of their family bank to use for a birthday coming up or for a holiday or something. But then also it solves the problem of when you go to the grocery store and the kids are like, Mommy, I want a candy. And you're like, oh, did you bring your money? And they're like, no. You're like, oh, darn it. Maybe next time, if you bring your money, you can get a candy. And they're like, oh, dang it. So it like turns it back on them instead of they're mad at you for not buying them a candy. They're like, I got to bring my money next time. And next time they bring their money and they buy their little Tic Tacs. My daughter loved Tic Tacs. That's
Cute.
fun.
And then the first
yeah.
thing I'm thinking is, oh man, I never have cash. I need to get my daughter like a rechargeable Visa card, the gift card, because I've literally, like, I know she's going to be that one. She like kind of doesn't really get too much of the concept of cash because my husband and I never carry cash. So I was like, do you have your card with you, Mom? Did you bring your card with you? Do you have this? Can I have my gift? Because we give her gift cards when we go away to Disney, all that stuff. And that's how she holds in her purse and takes care of it. So do you find
Cute.
that having the physical cash there for them is something that's beneficial? Or do you find now that with cash not being used often, what's your opinion on that? I'm super curious.
So here's the thing with cash. I actually do like cash a lot with the ages 5 to 11 because they can see when it's gone, right?
It's true.
And so it's a very tangible. Remember, 5 to 11-year-olds are still very tangible. It's hard for them to think that there's no more money on the card when they still have the card in their hand. They're like, and so that's a more difficult concept, not saying that kids can't get it. And we are moving to a cashless age, but still having the little cash in their hand. And it also teaches them like counting and money. And so math skills is reinforced through having that cash too. So I actually do like cash for that purpose, just that age 5 to 11. Now, when we get to 12-year-olds, we move on from cash. Yeah.
Makes total sense.
So I'm very interested to see how, with the older kids, if you start to introduce leverage. So you want to.
Okay. Okay. So
My thoughts exactly, actually.
next step is ages 12 to 15. So I like put them into this kind of pre-teen, starting to be teens anyway, phase. So at this point, at age 12, they've made enough money that they have to be kicked out of the family bank because the family bank cannot sustain them anymore. They cost too much, right? Like if they have, just think about it. If they have $500 in the family bank, they're earning $50 a month. I mean, that scales really fast. So they got to be kicked out of the family bank at this point. And so now we introduce the concept of real banking. And so we go and we sign up at a real bank. We move all that money into the real bank. We get them a real debit card. And so they feel very fancy because they've got a debit card with their name on it, and then we learn about, like, my 12-year-old, we just went through this with my youngest. She got the app on her phone so she can, control her account. And so it's those teaching moments to learn how real banking works at that point, and so that happens. We continue. Also, the allowance stops because at age 12, they are perfectly capable of earning all of their own money. And they're a little more motivated to earn bigger money because they want the nicer shoes or they want other things, right? They want what their friends want. So whatever their friends want, your child wants. That's what happens when they're 12. So at age 12, we keep the saving, giving, and investing. We keep the percentages the same to continue those habits. And also it was important for us in our own business. So we have our own real estate investing business, and our kids work in the real estate investing business. And so that's a lot of how they get paid. They could do outside jobs. Like we encourage all sorts of entrepreneurship at this age as well. Like, how can you launch your own business? What can you do to bring in extra money or extra cash? And we help them do that. And then we also introduce the concept of budgeting at age 12, like a bigger budget. And so you can start with a smaller one. And a good idea is to start with like a 3-month budget and give your child a 3-month toiletry budget. This works really well for girls, not so great for boys because they don't really care. But for girls, they're just starting to get interested in makeup and they want to try all the new little products and stuff. And so you can give them a budget for 3 months for toiletries. And what we do is we like map it out. And I have the kids do this. I have the kids like write down shampoo. It's going to be $8 for the 3 months or something, whatever. And then we total it up and then I deposit that full amount into their account. And now they are responsible for buying their own toiletries. So if they need something, they've got to come with me to the store and get it. We also do this in a bigger way with clothing. So clothing, we do a 9 to 12 month budget. So we sit down, we map out for a year, what kind of clothes are you going to need? Assign a dollar figure to each set of clothing. And then we transfer that large amount into their account. And now they're responsible to spread that out over almost a year. That gets tricky, right? Because what if they run out of money when it's swimsuit season? We always do it in August. We start it in August when like school starts. And so they're, getting their school clothes and stuff. But what if they run out of money and they need a new swimsuit? Guess what? They'll have to earn some money to get a new swimsuit, right? And so they're learning these skills of, okay, I have to manage my money. Otherwise I run out and then I have to pay for things that I don't want to pay for. I wanted mom to pay for that, and you also, it just kind of stops all of this begging for money or the entitlement issue. I know we hear that a lot, right? And kids just feel like, well, you should just give it to me because I'm your kid. And a lot of parents do because we love our children, right? We want to help them and we want to make their lives easier than our lives. Every parent wants that for their child. But having these things, it helps them feel like they are adults and they are big and part of the world, and have more control over their lives. So it's really interesting what happens there. And then, age 16 and up, this is the real heavy training time where we start talking about, are you going to college? And we're not going into debt for college because I don't believe that's good debt. I know a lot of people do, and maybe that's fiery to say on here, but I don't. I think it just puts kids in the hole and is one of the worst things that they can do. I also think it's predatory right now because if you think about end consumerism, the person at the end is, if they actually have to pay for whatever service or product that they buy, they make choices. They make very interesting choices, which back to the clothing budget, right? Before they got their clothing budget, we'd go school shopping for clothes. My kids never once looked at a price tag. Once they got a clothing budget and it was their responsibility to pay for their clothes, I guarantee they're looking at all the price tags. They're like, whoa, this shirt is $60. Nope. Let's get the $12 one, they make different choices. And so college is the same. It just drives me bonkers that student loans have become student loans and 529s. Like there's been this shaming of parents. You have to pay for your kids' college because kids can't do it. So the kids don't make the choice about where to go based on a financial decision. They're not making any kind of financial decisions. And then that's why tuition just keeps going up because everybody just keeps going because I don't have to pay for it. My parents, or I get a student loan and nobody pays for it. And then it's not till after that they're mad. Okay. I'll be off my soapbox for that.
Well, no, that's a very interesting, because I actually have a freshman in college right now. It's her first semester. And so that's very,
same.
That's a very good twist. And it's, I'm very proud of her.
Yeah.
Like it's not all academic scholarship, but a good amount. So it's, that's helped a lot and then grants, and she's willing to, there's a lot of scholarships out there that aren't even academic that are available.
There are so many ways.
She found 19 that she qualifies for, and I'm like, well, great, go for it. So
there are so many ways to make it through college debt free. And my oldest is graduating in December debt free with a degree in computer science. She did it all on her own. Like we as a family, maybe I'm stingy. We give our kids $10,000 to launch their adult life once they are done with college. And she used that 10,000 and then cash flowed all the rest and did it. And so it can be done. Now I have another daughter who wants to be a pharmacist or an anesthesiologist. That's going to be a little more tricky to get through med school without loans. But guess what? We invest in real estate, so it's possible, right? You flip a house and make 50 grand a year. Hey, that's your tuition, right? So there are ways to do it. Yeah. So, and then in investing. So I'm going to tell you a story about how we got our kids investing. It includes this beautiful cabin that I am sitting at right now. So like I said, we own a real estate investment business, and my husband and I have gotten good at fixing houses. And so we flip houses, and we do the live and flip method. We also do the external flip method. I have since graduated from that. Like, my husband still likes it, but I now do large multifamily investing because I like that better. But we still do flips, especially with the kids. So now that all 5 kids are in their teens, they're actually really great workers. They've been with us. They've come with us to all of our real estate investments. They've come, helped us paint. They weren't very helpful when they were 2, but they would come. And but now that they're teenagers, they're very helpful, and they're getting quite skilled. I mean, all of my kids can sheetrock, do baseboard, they can tile, they can do all the things. Now they may not be like really great craftsmen yet. They still have, lots of experience to get to line things up evenly, but that's okay. So one of the houses that we flipped, it was actually happened during COVID. And it was really interesting because COVID struck, and we were living in Phoenix at the time, and we could not go anywhere. It was just complete lockdown, right? For months. Right. Schools shut down. I mean, you guys remember COVID. It was kind of like a nightmare, but it happened. So suddenly we're all home, and we're like, well, might as well flip a house together. Let's go do it, because we had nothing else that we could do. And so that's what we did. So the kids worked really hard on this. They helped us, 10 to 12 hour days. We probably all worked together doing this property. Now that property ended up going really well for us. We made over 6 figures on that property, on that one flipped. And then we used a income shifting strategy, a tax strategy, to shift income to the kids, which, if you have a business, you need to know about this strategy, is that you can pay your kids in your business. It essentially shifts income to them, and they pay 0 tax on it. So it's shifting a whole ton and just saving a lot of money in taxes. Now remember, I have 5 kids, so I get to save even more money, right? So at the time it was $12,000 that you could shift to the kids. Now they absolutely earned that $12,000 by working in the business. But so we shifted that to the kids. So that represented $60,000 of the 100 grand that we made that got shifted to them. We told the kids, we said, okay, of this 12,000, 10,000 of it is going to be set aside for the next investment, right? So we taught them this was your active income. And now the goal is to take active income and turn it into passive income. And so then we went shopping as a family here in lovely Broken Bow, Oklahoma, where I am right now. And we went shopping for a cabin that could be dual purpose. It'd be dual purpose as a vacation home and a short-term rental. Found one that we loved. Each kid put in $10,000. Mom and dad chipped in the rest. Now each kid is 10% owner in their own passive investment. They're getting cash flow. Their net worth is increasing because of the appreciation of the home. And every year in December, we come and we have a P&L family meeting where I print off the P&L of how the property is performing, and we go through the line items and to figure that out. So now I'm trying to teach them higher level skills than, so when they learned the hands-on skills, now we're going after those higher level ones. And honestly, when I did the P&L thing, I was worried because I was like, are the kids even gonna like this? They might just look at me like, really, Mom, you have to do math while we're here at the cabin? But I was floored because my kids were all into it. I printed off a copy for each kid, and they were just all over it with their pencils and like needling me with questions. My youngest, she's like, Mom, why was the water bill so high in May? And I was like, I don't know, because Mom didn't pay that much attention in May. I'm not sure why it was so high in May, And then we had just this, the first time we did it, we just had this beautiful discussion about well, what can we do now to make this property more valuable? How can we get it more income out of it? And the kids had all these ideas. And one of the ideas that came out was like, Mom, we need our cabin to be more unique and memorable. So let's build a tree house out back. Who doesn't love a tree house, right? We were like, sold, let's do it. So this last summer, we spent the summer building a tree house out back of the cabin, and they're already starting to see that it's more attractive for people. People get excited about tree houses. And so the cabin is booking up more in the fall than it was last year. And so it's very exciting and for them to like experience that now.
Oh my gosh, value add. Totally right.
So
there.
awesome.
That's amazing. Hats off to you, Camilla.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to back up for 1 second, and this is not in this episode, but maybe we can all come back and talk about this. You know that the family bank that you have, you can convert that into a real family bank, just like when you took them to the bank.
In what way? What are you talking about?
Where, and this is a whole other episode, I would love for you to be a part of this as well. So I'm part of another group that teaches finance, but it's geared towards adults, but wanting adults to then spread this to their families and their children. Very much similar to what you're doing. You already have the foundation. Now it's just the discipline of creating the in-home family bank. All right, think about the Rockefellers. They are a bank. You do not have to be at the wealth level of Rockefellers. I have a family bank. And in 1 year, it's doing extremely well. You
Awesome.
basically, you incorporate the leveraging that I asked about. I was hoping that maybe you were going to be doing this already because it seemed like you were already there. But I'm telling you will.
I'm close. I think I know where you're headed. I'm close.
So the kids want to go and they want to buy something. So, all right, they're probably, a lot of them are at the age that they're going to be buying a phone. Well, usually when you get a phone, you get it you're actually paying, monthly to pay for the service. Instead of doing that, buy the phone outright, and then you pay your family bank. The family bank, you borrow and you have a loan. So you're borrowing loans. The adults in the family are the ones that create a little bit of a stream of income, or maybe the cabin could be the stream of income that feeds the bank. So it starts with a certain amount. But then once you start deploying those loans, it starts to feed itself, and it snowballs very fast. And then you have your own family bank. You learn all the finances that you're talking about right now. And eventually with your kids, maybe not the second generation, could very well be a large enough bank where when someone wants to buy a home, they come to the family bank to buy one. It's that much snowball velocity.
So I read that book, the Rockefeller Way, and that is exactly how I'm trying to set up my family and continue going, right? So one of my dreams, one of my goals is to have a family office, my own family office someday, and that will support the family in lots of ways. And yes, using the leverage of, hey, you want to start a business? Great. I would love to support your business. Here's some money to start it. And now you pay it back so that the next person can do the same thing. So, but thank you, Candace. I didn't think about starting it right now, because I always thought it was like a further away thing, but that's fascinating.
Your family is primed. I mean, it's like,
they're so well educated.
I want to come in your house.
Fertilized.
Yeah, they are so primed they'll get it. I mean, it's hard to introduce this to a family who has not done this before.
Right.
Yeah.
Great advice. I mean, I'm still working on my extended family without them thinking that I'm trying to introduce them to some kind of Ponzi scam, because they don't think about it. We are taught, just like you were saying with education and just throwing your money to a college and coming out with not the same amount of money you put in as what you come out with. And so to be able to implement this in your house, we're taught to be consumers. So you have to undo the well-trained, well-worn grooves of what we've been taught for a long time to be consumers, and come to all of your finances as a banker. And that is a very difficult thing. And when you're in the process of doing it, and you probably already or would not be experiencing this as much, but when I was first introduced to this concept, and it was only 3 years ago, that was I really implementing it, my brain would slow down, and it would feel like it was, all right, I'm going to date myself on, now talking about CDs, but it, like when a CD would skip,
Yeah.
and it would just be like, dot, 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 because it's like, am I being a banker? Am I being a consumer? Is it a banker or a consumer? But then eventually it just flows, just like your kids are like, let me take a look at that price tag. Oh, I don't want to pay that money. I'll make a different choice. And it's like, how can I make this $1 work for me twice? And that's what it does. And that's how the family bank works. So
I love it. I am inspired. Thank you. Thank you for that.
I don't want to do it on the podcast because we're really here to talk more about focusing on you, but we can have another episode if you want to talk about this. I can talk to you about, off screen as well. It's just
that would be fascinating
what this has done. Yeah. So let's roll into. Well, Tamara or Crystal, did you have any questions about the fabulous stories that we've heard so far?
Well, just I think she's touched upon really what kept resonating in my mind of the benefits, and the things that surprised you, the biggest surprise, and you already touched upon that, like going over a P&L at that age. It's just, that's amazing. There's so many people that I think, even older adults that don't even know what that is. Do you know? Not to, just because they haven't been exposed to that, or they haven't been in that arena, and nothing against anyone, but they, just you expose them to something and things, you open up their minds in such a way that. So if you could elaborate on any other benefits that you think that surprised you, I guess.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I want to say is I've painted this glowing picture of my children as being always so happy to fix houses and stuff. Just reality check, right? I have normal teenagers. Half the time they don't want to be there. They don't want to work, right? It is, I have very normal family that are not, they don't get concepts right away. I had a daughter that cried during payday because she had made $20 that month, and then she had to she only got to keep 10 of it is how her mind worked, because we took away 10 and I didn't want that, and I've made 20, and so yes, we have had a normal family. But have I forgotten paydays? Yes, we've gone 3 months where I didn't do it as consistent as I should have. And, but here's the thing, is just if you make a consistent, effort, the kids are going to get the concept, and they're going to understand, and they're going to be light years ahead. And I think the other thing that surprised me is when my daughter went off to college, I sat there thinking, I'm like, have I taught her enough? Does she know enough to manage everything? I'm just not sure. So she gets to college, and within 2 months, she's calling me and she's like, Mom, my roommates are terrible with money. They have no idea how it works. And she started doing budgeting sessions with her roommates and putting together spreadsheets for them. And she started doing all this. And really, I was like, girl, you need to be an influencer online for other college students. Maybe she'll get there someday. I don't know. She's like, I don't know, Mom. I don't know if I want to do that. But she is leading the charge, and people are gravitating towards her because she knows how money works. And so that's been really fascinating to see, and gratifying as a mother to know that the kids they really have learned a lot, and I have been able to put them ahead of the game, and in this really crucial space. And it's really interesting because a lot of kids go off to college and then they just blow their money, or they make really bad decisions, which sets them back so much. And I'm just like, yeah, we're not going to do that. Let's stay close. We're going to work on money. So, not only did my daughter cash flow her college degree, she took a 3-month trip to Bali that she paid for herself. And she spent 3 months in Bali traveling like with a roommate at first and then solo for a while, and and was able to do that. And it's not because she had like a bajillion dollars to start out with. She just has learned how to be really good with her money. And so I think those are some of the things that were surprising to me.
That's awesome.
Well, I just want to thank you for a few things that you just said. Like,
Yeah.
as you were going through all of that, like, I'm like, oh my God, like, talk about super mom. Like, you're doing all of these, like, I'm like, oh my God, I want to be on your level with I have 2 daughters, and I'm like, this is my goal. Well, I have a 4-year-old and a 6-month-old. And I'm like, this is exactly what I want to do. And I was like, I feel myself like, oh my gosh, okay, I need to write all this down. I can't forget this. I can't forget that. And then when you said, I have a normal family, it took me back. I'm like, you know what? It's okay to miss. Like, it's okay. Yep. And it just like, I instantly felt weight off my shoulders, and we're like, you know what? I'm a normal human too, and things are going to get missed and forgotten as it does. And so first saying that, and it's like, every mom knows it in the back of their head, but just saying that really helped I hope for myself. I hope for all the listeners as well.
Totally.
And the fact
none of us are super moms, right? I think we all have our skills. We all have our strengths. Money just happens to be one of my strengths. Don't ask me about crafting with my kids. I'm not doing it. I'm terrible at it. I hate it, and the kids know it, and they laugh at me about it now. I can't do stuff like that. I can't be cutesy with the kids. I'm terrible at birthdays. Like, you celebrate the birthday, but it's not cute. It's not great, but my kids know about money, so I don't know.
That's everybody shows love in a different way, and that was your way of expressing the love. And
that's right.
Just the fact that your oldest is going through life as she is now, I'm sure she looks back and sees and feels like, look what I've gotten. That's priceless. The fact, the information and knowledge that she's gotten from you is allowing her to clearly live her best life is awesome. And I'm sure that's tenfold more important than anything else. And obviously the time you guys spent together must have had crucial benefits. And that's another thing I just absolutely love. And I want to do with our daughters, like literally do fix and flip just so we can all work together. I think work ethics is so important, and you never want anyone to feel entitled. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. So I just love all of that. So thank you so much for all of that.
Yeah, that was absolutely fantastic. I'm just in awe of how, and the one of the other beautiful things about it is that your daughter recognized and wanted to help the other kids. It wasn't, she did it. And I think this also, she did the helping aspect of it. I'll finish my sentence so you can follow my train of thought. But she did it because she wanted to help. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that you also talked about giving in the very beginning as part of the banking. And a lot of times we just think about money, how we keep it close, all of that. But to implement all of that at the same time, I think it's easier to process and how we handle it, what it's for, what is this tool that we have that creates so much friction in the world, and how can we do it so it's not doing that. And I think that was oh my gosh, I am just so happy with this podcast.
Good.
So we mentioned like generational wealth. Like, so
yes.
Did you want to like elaborate a little more just for our listeners about that term? It's pretty loosely used, if you're in this arena, So what
it's an interesting term too, because when people think generational wealth, I think the first common definition that pops into your mind is passing money down to your family, right? For me, it's different. For me, generational wealth is passing down the ability for my children to be wealthy. And that's a very different thing, right? Having the money in your hands is different than having the ability to generate as much money as you could ever want. And so that's the thing that's super important to me is passing down the training and the knowledge and the, and just the philosophy. The way we think about it is different in our family than even like their cousins might think about it. And so because they're being trained in a different way. And so that's what's super important to me in terms of generational wealth is just the transfer of knowledge and doing it together, right? I mean, this whole investment together in this thing, I just want to dispel the myth of like families can't do business together or can't do money stuff together. That's not true, right? It's going to ruin your family if you do that. Thanksgiving's going to be awful if you like invest together. I just don't believe that's true. I think families can do it in a very healthy way and a supportive way where everybody's kind of working on their piece of the business and doing their aspects of like I am a huge believer in family businesses and training the kids up as they go. Now, of course, kids have their freedom. They have the freedom to choose, especially as they become adults. And as we're going into this, like my oldest daughter, she loves tech, right? So she's doing computer science, but she also has developed a spreadsheet that says, okay, as soon as I get my first year in tech, I'm going to invest half of that. And I'm going to invest it in these passive investments that are going to grow. I mean, the girl's going to be a millionaire, but well before I ever did it. And because she knows how to do it. And then one of my other twin daughters that just graduated high school, she decided that college is not her path. She wants to be a general contractor. She wants to have her own house flipping business. So she just launched her business. It's called T&T Construction. And she has launched her own business and now she's flipping houses and learning as she goes and learning how to talk to subs and do all of that and get the work done. And so we'll see what everybody chooses to do. But I think all families should have a family cabin they invest in together because it's such an amazing training thing and memory builder. So, I mean, every time, and it's a write-off. I mean, every time we come here, it's like for free. We get to come here for free on vacation as a family. All the food we do, all the food you eat, I mean, everything that happens because we're having our family meetings. We're having our business meetings. The other nice thing about being as a family is you can use all the tax strategies to you can write off your life, right? Write off your vacations. We go to Hawaii as a family and we have a business meeting while we're there and we shoot content while we're there. And so you can write off a lot of that. And so again, teaching kids how money works, that if you're a W-2 employee, you earn income, you pay tax, then you spend it. If you're a business owner, you earn income, you spend it, then you pay tax. And that just flipping that one little thing makes a huge, huge difference in their lives. And so, and you can teach it to kids when they're young. They can learn stuff like this. It's not that hard. We play lots of financial games. We do, I even have another great tip for your teenagers is have them follow financial influencers on TikTok, right? They're on their phones all the time anyway. You might as well say, hey, follow these 10 TikTokers that teach the financial topics that you have researched that you think that they are teaching the right things. Like don't just do any financial influencer because a lot of them don't have any clue what they're talking about. But find the right ones, say, hey kids, follow, right? So then they're getting a daily dose of money information as they are scrolling through and laughing at people falling off of trees or something, right?
I want to touch on just one tiny little thing you were talking about where we go back to generational wealth. I think another myth is that just the word wealth and generational wealth, it's almost unreachable for a lot of people when those words are put together. They think of the Rockefellers. They don't think that wealth is when you have more money than what you spend. It can be $1 and you're cash flowing. And I think as society, we put labels on all these things and that therefore kind of, upper limiting beliefs keep us small to know that generational wealth, your wealth and what your needs and what your wants are may not necessarily be somebody that wants to own, the 5 or 6 houses. It's what your needs and what your wants are. And if you can achieve those, that you've reached your generational wealth. You've reached wealth that obviously as we expand, we tend to want more because we have the experiences that then open our minds and it just doesn't shut. We just want to continue to grow. It doesn't mean that we're not continuing to grow our expenses. That kind of comes with the territory, but there's a part there that I think a lot of people just kind of shut down around that. Do you find that as well, or want to comment on that?
Yes, right. So I think people do when they say generational wealth, they're like, oh, well, that means you have to have tens or hundreds of millions of dollars in order to pass that down to other generations. But you're right, you don't. And even generational wealth doesn't have to be necessarily like money transferring. Although we are entering, it's interesting because we're entering a really big money transfer phase where boomers have a lot of money, and how that gets transferred is going to be really interesting how it plays out. And actually a lot more women are in the roles to receive the money. And that's another reason why I'm super passionate about teaching, women in general, is because they need to be prepared. Otherwise, what happens? I mean, the data is clear. By the third generation, the money's gone, essentially, because the second generation didn't understand how to manage it. And so that's what's crucial here is how do you manage it? How do you make good decisions about investments at kind of higher levels? And so that's a lot of what I am like diving into research on right now and learning more about and teaching is how do you really manage many dollars, right? So how do you graduate from being a 401k investor to a level 2 investor? So what happens at level 2? And then what happens at level 3 and 4 and 5 and all of those different levels as you continue to conquer new levels? There's always something new to learn. And it's kind of fun, actually. I think it's fun. I think it's fun to like open up this whole wide world of investing. I mean, I can invest in a fund that supports entrepreneurial women in Africa, and it will give me a return, and I'm going to feel so good about myself because I'm like helping people, So there's so many cool things you can do with investing.
Wow, I just say. I could continue talking forever.
Great. Well, Camilla, actually, if our listeners wanted to reach out to you and learn more about you, where exactly would they reach you?
Yeah, so an easy place is at my podcast. I have a podcast called Quiet Wealth. Believe it or not, I'm an introvert, and I like to stay home and just fix my own houses, or talk on my podcast. But that's where I'm teaching. It's specifically for women in their 40s and 50s, teaching them next level investing, business building, and how to leave a legacy for your family. I actually just recorded episode 100 where it's called Give a Million. So it's talking about wealth in a different way. How do you build enough wealth so that you could give away $1 million in your lifetime while you're still alive and see the impact that would have? So that's a very interesting concept. So that was exciting. So that's a really great way to find me. Also, Camilla Jeffs. I think I'm the only Camilla Jeffs in the world. Like you can find me on LinkedIn or Instagram under that. Just use my name, and that's one of the best ways to connect with me.
Wow.
Awesome. Well, we also like to end each podcast with kind of a thought-provoking pick a quote of the day. And Tamara has 3 cards here. And can you pick a number 1 through 3 to tell us what our quote of the day will be?
I'll go with number 3.
The number 3 is a wise person should have money in their head, but not in their heart, by Jonathan Swift.
Okay. Their head, but not in their heart. I think when you lead with your heart, you're right. The heart doesn't lead with money. You don't need money to be loved. You don't need money to give love. But there is a lot of stuff you can do with money if it's in the right hands. And that's another part of my mission is like, how do we get money in the right hands so that we can create more impact?
Yeah. I feel like money has the affiliation that it actually has feelings, as if it has power. And it's not. It's simply a tool, like a wrench, a toolbox, and it's just how you use it.
And I
then
teach my kids that money is not the goal and
Yes.
money is not the enemy, right? It's neither the goal nor the enemy. It's
Hmm.
just simply the tool, and it flows into our lives and we're grateful for it, and it flows out and we're grateful it flows out, right? Because I think, and that's also trying to knock off scarcity mindset. So if you have
Right.
scarcity mindset, you're like hoarding your money, or you're always worried that you're not going to have enough.
Right.
And you've got to release that, because you've got to just be grateful when it comes in. And then, I have a child who really struggles to spend money. Like she just does not want to spend her money. And it's frustrating because she needs a new pair of shoes, and we go shopping and we go to like 7 stores and she won't buy a dang pair of shoes. And I'm like, girl, come on, you've got to buy it. But it's this struggle of money. And so I'm teaching her the concept of, let's be grateful for what money can give you, right? So money goes out, say thank you. Thanks for your help, right? You got me this pair of shoes, and now I have a new pair of shoes that are really cute. I feel good in my new shoes, and so teaching these concepts is just like, having the money is just that tool is so critical, because then you're raising people with very healthy attitudes and towards money, rather than the unhealthy kind where you're just either hoarding it, or you're always after it, you're always pursuing it, or you never feel like you have enough. It's just this never ending wheel that you can get stuck on, for sure.
Yeah, that's exactly what that quote kind of brings up. If it's in your head, you think about it logically, you realize this is something I need. It's a tool. It's not something that you are in love with. You don't love money. You love what the money can do for you, like you said. So that's exactly what that brings up for me. And oh man, I think we could just go on and on about all of this. Overall, Camilla, this was just absolutely fabulous. Everything that you've taught your children, I hope not only the parents, but everyone out there that's looking to essentially teach themselves some financial education, because maybe that's why they're here on the podcast. That's why this episode intrigued them, because they want to get some more financial education. So even if you don't have little ones, you can take all of these things and do it for yourself. Maybe you and a friend or your significant other, you guys teach each other, because once you have enough knowledge to actually teach, that's how you truly know something. So take it up, absorb it, and then go and teach it to somebody else, because that's just going to be reiterating it to yourself. So overall, absolutely, thank you so much for sharing your wealth of knowledge that you have with us. And we have to wrap it up here, even though we could chat forever. So not only we want to thank you, Camilla, we want to thank all of our listeners out there for joining us at our roundtable discussion today. And if you want to learn more, please feel free to not only check out Camilla on Instagram, but of course us, the Real Estate Women, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and then our website is therealestatewomen.com. So thank you, Camilla, again. Thank you, listeners. I hope you guys all have a fabulous day.
thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
The information contained in this podcast is for educational purposes only. We are not licensed professionals and do not give investment advice, tax advice, or other professional advice. Please consult a licensed professional before making any financial decisions.